Hi all, very good morning.
Hi, God.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think all are trying for old link. Maybe they haven't received seen this mail or not. New link mail.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe we'll wait for a couple of more minutes for them to join in.
okay. Otherwise, we may go with organizer. They should call them to
Yeah,
join.
I'll inform them. I'll inform them.
Okay. Hi, Pawan.
Right?
Yeah, could you share the profile for AWS? Actually, I need a requirement in internal opportunity I have there.
Okay.
And till how many days we can complete our sessions on AWS solution architect point?
We are almost done more than halfway. So
Okay,
maybe 10 to 12 sessions more. I guess we are good.
okay. Which concepts we need to mostly focus on a solution architect like EC2 along with S3 and
Yeah. The next will be currently we are learning about Route 53. That is
yeah, okay.
important. We learn to how to host our domains. Next,
Mhm.
after that, it will be VPC. That is most important section. How to create your own virtual private cloud.
Okay. Okay, daily routine support activity. What we do in point of
Mm, in our normal day-to-day work, usually it will be a part of creating some users, helping them to assign with set of permissions.
Mhm.
In the VPC, we'll create with the we'll set up the VPN sometimes,
Okay.
or maybe sometimes we have to set up the database. In the Route 53, where we had done,
Mhm.
we may have to help the people host domains.
And rarely we create EC2 instance, right? On that develop, I mean, new console.
Yeah, but as an admin, we can directly create from console. Usually what happens is there will be different set of teams. So if I'm a part of cloud admin team, right, we'll have a work with more with EBS volumes, what is happening with the auto scaling, what is happening with the load balancing, if there is any error, why is it coming, so that we'll try to check out.
Okay. In our AWS, what are roles, different kinds of, I mean, like as an admin and developer and solution architect, what are the kind roles in organization?
Yeah, one is for admin, one is developer, one is solution architect who completely designs the solution. Other is fourth one is DevOps, where people will help only in doing the automation. So they completely work only in the scripting part. So they and that is out of AWS itself. So they do work on the tools like Terraform, Packer, Jenkins, Git. So from there, they actually write the code from which they will actually build the infrastructure on the AWS.
Okay. I hear that admin and solution architect similar roles we have, right?
No, no, no. Solution architect, why they call it as similar is basically solution architect, they are basically helping to design the complete solution, right? So if I show you one of the diagram, I guess we have people here. I just as the architect, most of the times it does happen that they design these kind of diagrams and do a very small POC. So as an architect also, it is really necessary to know all the services in and around, because they may have to present it to a client with a small prototype, how it is working and how
Okay.
to set up all of these things, how to referring to the existing architecture if they want to migrate, how we can actually prepare this kind of diagrams. So architects are more in terms of designing these diagrams, how to make a highly available architecture, how many availability zones are required, how many subnets should be required, what kind of security groups should be required.
Okay. For admin, we don't write any additional certification, right? Only solution architect is enough, I think.
Yeah, after solution architect, you can go for sysops.
Okay. And it's associate and professional, two certificates we have, right?
Sysops is associate, DevOps is professional.
Okay. Uh, okay. Actually, on requirement point of admins or solution architect, which positions they hire more on companies?
Both of them. Admins are more because usually solutions architect will be only few of them in a company. More will be the admin, because if the project is stable, then they go for more number of admins which would be required.
Okay. In profile, we need to keep both, right? Admin
Yeah,
and solution. Okay.
yes. In terms of certification, you can keep both of them. In terms of the profile that you want to pursue your career with, you can go with administration or something as such. But you can always mention that you have been helping your architects to design the solutions and helping them to create the solution model as well.
Okay.
So we have
Thank
everyone
you.
on the board. Good morning, everyone. So we were just discussing light profile on how are the job profile market for the AWS and what is the kind of role that we have in order to perform on the real-time markets. So looking back at a session where we left yesterday, it was on the Route 53. We learned about all the basics. So in the terms of basics, we learned what is Route 53. It is a place where I can go ahead and actually host a domain with a user-friendly name on AWS cloud. And what are the important terms that we learned about? IPv4, IPv6. So IPv4 addresses used to exist a little while back, and now people or the internet service providers, we call it as ISP, are now moving towards IPv6 because the number of IP addresses which are available in the world are now getting depleted. So with the IPv6, we are now able to solve the solution where we will get 340 undecillion addresses. Then we learned about IANA, Internet Assigned Authority. which is responsible for the top level domains, and also to ensure that whatever domains are purchased under the top level are specifically unique. So ICANN and the IANA are the two different services which help us to give information on the top level domains and the uniqueness of specific domain. If someone has purchased it, who is it, and how can I specifically get that information from. Then we learned about different types of records. The first one is SOA, that is start of authority record. Second is NS, that is name servers. Third is A record, that is address record. And the fourth one was C name, that is canonical name. We have one more that is called as alias record. But alias record is completely a concept of cloud from the AWS itself. So we will quickly go ahead and create one practical lab that will actually give us a heads up. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to use this freenom.com to purchase our domains. So usually if you have to purchase any domain, that is going to be a costlier one. Let's hope this website works. Sometimes it doesn't work well, sometimes it does work. Let me see if it is. So I'll just say I want to purchase one domain with the name awstring2018.tk. So the domains that we are going to purchase from here are basically free. So we don't have to pay any money for it. That's why we are using this website. So if it works, that's fine. We'll be able to do the complete part of our lab at just $0.50, because hosting any domain on AWS is going to charge you $0.50 even in the free tier as well. So let's check out if we are able to get one free domain, or else the domain itself will cost you around $8 to $9 sometimes. So I'll just go ahead and say yes, check out. Okay, I'll just remove. Okay, let's just keep both of them for now. So it has sent some verification link to my email. I'll just go ahead and log in. So I'll quickly go ahead and verify it. There we go. I have been able to get it in the checkout page. AWS Training 2019.tk. This is the domain we are going to purchase, and it's going to be free. I need to enter a few details here. I'll just say Pawan and then Kumar. I'll leave everything as default. And then just say I have read the terms and conditions, and then say complete the order. Okay, it is asking me the address line, so I just say test company, test place. I'll enter some random address. I'll enter some random numbers. Click on this and then say complete order. There we go. I have been successfully able to purchase the domain, and now I'm going to go down to my client area, click on the services, and then click on my domains. So it has worked successfully. We have purchased the domain with the name aws2020.2019.tk for free, and that is free for certain number of months, maybe, yeah, specifically for 3 months. That's fine. You can go ahead and release it off in after you are done with your lab. I'm going to go and click on say manage domain. So again, it's going to ask me for my email ID. Yeah, so I am inside this specific place, and click on the management tools and click on the name server. So we learned about NS records, right? Name servers. So the moment you're going to purchase any domain, you will be given a set of name servers from that company itself, right? So this is how you get to go with registration of domain. So what did we do? We went to something like a website, which is freenom.com, from where we purchased a free domain. So usually if you go down to any other websites, the most popular ones are something like GoDaddy or Big Rock, where you can go ahead and purchase the domains. And let's say if I go ahead and try to find out anything with .co, at least I'll say testtraining.co. If you see, it does ask me to go for the 2 years of registration, and if I go for 2 years of registration, the first year will be at 99 price, and the second year still I have to go ahead and pay 2239 rupees. Or if I go for single year, it is at least going to ask me for a 1138, right? So it is going to cost you out if you guys are going to use out this. Or maybe if you go for the most cheapest one also, at least it will be like 99 plus 599 or 249 plus 599. Or even the one with training.org, it is coming with 269 rupees. That is the most cheapest, I guess. Or .xyz, which is again an ad, which comes at 63 rupees. Right? So if you're going to purchase this domain, they're going to cost you out on your AWS account. So in order to do this lab as a part of free tier, just ensure that you purchase the domain from myfreenom.com and you will get it for free. Okay, let's go back to AWS now. So we have already got our this one. I'll open up my AWS console. I'll click on the services. I'll go down to Route 53. Okay, I already have one of my hosted zones here. I'm just going to go ahead and create one more. So if you want, you can also purchase directly the domains from here itself, from the Amazon. He is also one of those providers from where you can purchase, but you'll have to pay out in the dollars, which is shown up here. So I'm going to make use of the existing domain that we have just received. Just go onto the hosted zone. So as a part of practice lab, I was just creating one more, that is with the name aws2017.tk. The one that we have purchased is now aws2019.tk. I'll just go ahead and copy this and click on hosted zone. So it's going to ask you what is your domain name. Enter aws2019.tk. So whenever you are going to enter the name of domain, enter it without www. That is actually called as naked domain. So I'll just make a note here. Naked domain or zone apex. or Apex record. So we call it with three different names. So if the website is without www, that is like if I say AWS training 2019.tk or facebook.com, right? I'm not keeping www in front of it. So all these are basically the naked domains, we call it as. So just enter the naked domain, and then make it as a publicly hosted zone, and then go ahead and say create publicly hosted zone, because it's going to be available for all the people in this world. So for hosting one single domain in the Route 53, it is going to cost you 50 cents per month. So there's no cheat code for that, but at least in the domains you can save a little money. Now, the moment I go out and create a hosted zone in the AWS Route 53 service, I'm going to get two different set of records, that is NS and the SOA. Remember, the SOA is start of authority, NS is name server records. But the place from where you purchase the domain also has got some name server records, right? So what I'm going to do is, since I'm going to host everything on my Amazon, I'm going to go and pick up these name server records. I'll just copy all 4 of them, put it in my notepad here, remove the dot from last, so I'm going to make the changes of the name servers into the place from where I purchase the website, that is myfreenom.com. I'll say I would like to use custom name servers, and then please go ahead and change all of them. I'll pick up one after the other entry and update the name server records. Okay, ensure that you have selected this radio button, use custom name servers, and we have entered all of them, and click on change name servers. So there we go. It says we have successfully made the changes. Let's re-verify it once. I'll just go back to name servers, and there we have received. Yeah. So as I just said yesterday, the name servers are just like a post offices, right? So if you want to deliver some post to a specific address, how would you do it? So you would go to a nearest post office, you give it to them, and they specifically find out where is this address all about, how to get it delivered. Similar is the case here. Now the people from the world are trying to access your website, which is with the name AWS Training 2019.tk, and it is going to a place from where I actually purchased the domain, because he is having the complete authority of AWS Training 2019.tk. Inside this, we have written NS records, that is name servers. So it is going to look for the name servers, which are like post offices. So this is going to contain this name server records. It is going to go back and hit to my Amazon servers, because these name servers belong to Amazon. Now here we are going to create one more record set, which is called as a record, that is address record. So these name servers in turn look for the address record which is available in that Route 53 place, and this address record will be actually mapped to the ELB, which is again mapped to the EC2 instance. So this is the complete flow how it is going to take place. Now we have done a couple of things in this. We have created the domain with the name AWS Training 2019.tk, and then we were able to get some name servers from the freenom.com as well as in the Route 53 of Amazon. So whatever name server records I got in Route 53, I went ahead and updated the same in the place from where I purchased the domain. So whenever someone is now hitting a request on AWS Training 2019.tk, it first actually goes to the place from where I purchased it, and it looks for these name servers, and these name servers are now going to look for the address record. So we'll create the address record at last, I'm now going to create a EC2 instance and the ELB. So first we'll create the things from the right hand side, and then from the left hand side, and then finally we'll make them join with the help of address record. So let's go ahead and create EC2 instance and the ELB. I'll open up the services section. I'll go down to the EC2 and say open new tab. There you go. So the first thing I'm going to do is launch a load balancer. So I'll click on create load balancer. So I'm going to make use of the classic load balancer in this case. I'll say my classic LB. I'll keep it with the default VPC, and then HTTP protocol on the load balancer and HTTP protocol on the instance. I'll click on assign security groups. I'll select from the existing security group, that is web server. I'll remove this default. Since we are using HTTP protocol, we do not have any secure listener. I'll go to the configure next part of health check. I'll just say healthy.html, and then I'll keep the interval a little small so that my load balancer comes into picture faster. So I'll just say it as 3 for healthy threshold and unhealthy threshold as 2. So let's go ahead and add the instances. Currently I do not have any, so we'll add the instances later at later part. So I'll initially go ahead and add the tags. I'll just say name, my classic LB, and then just review and create and click on create. So we have now created the load balancer. Let's quickly create an EC2 instance as well. So I'm going to click on launch instance. I'm going to make use of Amazon Linux AMI. I'm going to make use of general purpose T2 micro. So in here, I'll leave everything else default. Just a part that I'd like to add some bootstrap script, which is going to make this as a web server so that we don't have to log in inside the SSH terminal and make some changes. Let me see if I have got a bootstrap script. Yeah, so I have got as part of small bootstrap script available from one of my previous labs. So we are going to make use of it. So I'll just go ahead and put it across. I'll explain you what is there in this. So I am using shebang/bin/bash, which means I'm trying to execute all the commands at a root level using the below bash script. And then the first option is yum update -y, where I'm trying to go ahead and update all the security patches. Then I'm trying to install the Apache software, that is HTTPD. So I'll say yum install HTTPD -y, and then I'm changing my directory to the var www/html, and then I'm trying to create one small page with the index.html name. Similarly, I'll just go down create. Now the home page will always be called as index.html. So if you just want to give the raw IP address or just a domain name, the home page is always called as index.html. We can of course create few other pages. Let me do that as well. So I'll just say, yeah, we'll create healthy.html. I'll just say this is healthy. So we would require healthy.html so that my load balancer also would work better. And then I'm starting my Apache service and then ensuring that the Apache is always up and running. So this is a small bootstrap script that I'm going to put across. Let's go ahead and add storage. It's going to be of size 8 GB with general purpose SSD drive. And I'm going to go ahead and add the tags. I'll just say name, my web server. I'll now go ahead and attach it to a security group. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to a security group with the name SSSG. So in case if I want to log in via port number 22, I'll just keep it open for a while. And then web server security group, which has got HTTP and HTTPS protocols opened up. I'll say review and launch, and I'll quickly go ahead and launch this machine. So I'm going to use one of the key pair that we already have. So I'm going to make use of Virginia key pair that we had created. I'll go ahead and say launch instance. So this is now going to launch the instance. Now let's go back to the load balancer and attach this EC2 instance there. So I'll come down to the instances section, click on edit instances. And then click on the currently running EC2 instance and say save. So there we go. Now if I go back to my page, so where we were discussing, yeah, this is the place. So we have created the domain with the name AWS Training 2019.tk. Then we created a Route 53, the domain in the Route 53 as well. And whatever name servers we have received in the Route 53, we went ahead and mapped it into the place from where I purchased my domain. And then I spinned up one load balancer as well as one of the EC2 instance, and then mapped my ELB with the EC2 instance. Now the final step that remains is the address record. So let's go down to the Route 53 section. But before we go down to Route 53, I would just like to verify if the instance and the load balancer are working fine. So currently it is out of service. Let me refresh it. It should be in service by now. Yes, it is in service. So let's check out if this is working fine. I'll just go ahead and copy this domain name and then just check out. Yes, it is working fine. And if you want to check out the healthy.html file, you can just say healthy.html. So both of the web files are working. So our load balancer doesn't have any problems. So I'll just go back to Route 53. And now I'm going to go ahead and say create record set. So in this, it is going to ask me what is the record set all about. So I'm going to create a record, that is address record. And I'm going to keep this as a naked domain. I'm not going to add www here. I'm just going to keep it as a naked domain for a while. And I'm going to use a record. And then I'm going to say alias as yes. And if I go ahead and click on this, I'll be able to look for all the options, right? So my load balancer should typically load here. Since I have to refresh the screen back. I'll just refresh it out. Okay, so it has been, page has been refreshed. I'll click on create record set. So I'm going to keep it as a naked domain with the name AWS Training 2019.tk, and this is going to be a record with the IPv4 address for now. I'm going to make use of alias and then click on the target name. I'm going to get the load balancer name. So it is loading the targets. So we'll wait for a little while for these targets to be loaded. I'll have to keep this screen on. Yes, there we go. I can see the my classic LB that was just created some time back. Select that, and the routing policy, I'm going to keep it simple, and evaluate health target, I'll say no, and just go ahead and say create. So there we go. I have actually now created the naked domain with the name aws2019.tk, which is now mapped to the load balancer. Let's check out if it really works. We have made actually all the changes and all the parameters are being mapped across. Okay, so it is 2019. So there we go. The website really works well. So there's no problem. All the mappings that we have done are correctly done, correctly updated. So I'm going to put across the name of the domain in the chat box. Maybe you guys also want to check out from your side on your browser if everything is working fine. Yes, we are going to discuss about all the different options that we have available while we create the record set. So we have 4 different options available more. Apart from simple, we have something called as weighted, we have something called as latency, we have something called as failover and the geolocation. So we are going to learn about them in next few minutes. What are the different types of routing policies? How do they help us? For now, I have just kept it as a very simple routing policy where I am able to directly open up my domain. So what did we do in this case? It was very simple. We just created a domain from the place we created a domain from myfreenom.com, and then we also created a Route 53 domain with the same name, and then we received the name servers in the AWS, and those name servers we picked up and updated in the myfreenom.com, and then we created a EC2 instance and the ELB, and finally we mapped the name servers and the ELB with the help of a record. So I had created a record inside this domain with the name aws2019.tk, which is mapped to this ELB. Now you might be wondering, if I want to keep www in front of it, how can it be done, right? If you say, whenever I keep www and say aws2019.tk, it doesn't work anymore. So how can I improve this situation? It's very simple. Let's click on create record set again, and you will be again displayed with the name. What is the name of the record you want to create? I'll say I want to create www.aws2019.tk. Again, this is going to be a record. For the alias, I'll say yes, and click on the target, and then just scroll down at last, and it says record sets in this hosted zone. So I can map it directly to the aws2019.tk, that is naked domain. And then again, I'll go ahead and say create. So I'm basically redirecting www.aws2019.tk to the domain with the just aws2019.tk, which is mapped to the ELP. Now let's go down and refresh this page. It's not going to work in my system because it is cached on my system currently. Maybe you guys can give it a try by keeping www and let me know if it is working for you guys. Yeah, it works. So basically in my system, if I have opened it the very first time, when it doesn't work, the same page gets cached here. So that's the reason it is not showing up. So usually the websites get cached onto our local machines for a little while, and that number is mentioned here in the NS records for how much time they are going to be cached. That is called as TTL. So I can actually reduce this TTLs to, let's say, 1 minute, and then save this. So maybe after one or 2 minutes, I'll be able to see the changes that will be reflecting across in this. Yeah, Anyway, it's working fine, but just that it is in my cache, it will take a little while to reflect the correct domain. So this is how basically we create the domains and then we host them across and do the complete mapping. So purchase the domain from one of the place, then create the same record set in the Route 53. Then you're going to get a name servers, pick up the name servers from the Route 53, update into the place from where you purchase the domain. Try to create an EC2 instance where you're going to host your web servers. Try to create an ELB, map the ELB with the EC2 instance and check that the ELB is working fine. And then you are going to create a finally with the address record, which is going to map and create a complete workflow. So any questions here on hosting the domain part? Yeah, so usually whenever we have to update the record, they first lower the TTLs. So just as I did. So in the real time, they have to first reduce the TTLs and then make the changes to the web pages so that whenever the users are actually trying to hit the website, it is actually going to reduce the TTLs. I hope it should be working for me now. Let's check out. No. So first they have to reduce the TTLs and then they have to make the changes so that the user system will get the new updates and then they'll be able to see the new changes in the web pages. Until then it will not happen. There is some other way as well. One of my colleague was trying other day to make the changes reflected. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, I'll just check this out how to make some changes at later point. Yeah, here it is. Now it is working. So the changes whenever we are going to do may take a little while for the system to reflect because it all depends upon the TTL that we have to drop down. Yeah, looking at what are the different other set of records that we have. So when you click on create record set, you also get different options. Like if you want to set it up on IPv6, then you can go for quadruple A records. Then we have CNAME, that is for canonical records. So if you want to set up emails, you go for MX records. So we have all the different set of records that we can use across, but most commonly that we use is only the A record or the quadruple A record and CNAME and the MX. These are the most commonly used while we set up the domain. So any more queries on this part of first portion on the Route 53? Yeah, so usually what happens is whenever we create these domains, each of them has a specific TTL. Now, what does this TTL actually resemble to? So, like let's say I'm trying to open Amazon.in. Okay. So the very first time I'm going to open it, it is actually going to look where is the server actually, right? And from where it can actually get all the response from. And now that it has got a response, it does know this address of this servers, right? So what it does, it will actually try to store in the local cache of my system. So whenever I'm now going back to Amazon.in, instead of directly hitting the main server, it is going to look at in my cache what was the server that I have visited last time. Like Amazon would have given some address to it, and the same would have been stored inside my cache of the system. So the second time when I open it, it opens much faster because the things are already available in the cache, and it already knows the exact address where it has to go hit and get the response back. Now, if I have to make some changes on this page, let's say this is the page on which this banner has to change every day. So if you want the users to be able to see the changes, I'll have to basically drop the TTLs. Now, if I don't drop the TTLs, what will happen? It will still display the same page that I was seeing yesterday, because the TTL is defined for a certain time. Let's say I have given TTL as 86,400, which means one single day. So in a one single day, even if I open any number of times this Amazon.in, it is going to show me the same banner page. Even though they have updated in the server, I may not be able to see it across because my system has got a cache content of this website. And the moment the TTLs are dropped, and whenever I go back and again open it, so it is going to update the value of the TTL. So if it was 86,400 before, and now if it is just, let's say 300 seconds, so again when I open the website, it is going to drop the TTLs to 300. So now the content is going to be cached only for 300 seconds, and after 5 minutes, if I'm going to visit back the same website, I will be able to see the changes in the home page. So that is where the TTLs come into the picture, which actually helps us to update the changes and help them to view faster on the user's end. Okay, now looking at one of the other records, you can always create a CNAME record as well here. And maybe you just want to create something like m.awstraining.2019.tk as the domain. And here I can directly say where it is going to be redirected to. So I can say that it's going to redirect to www.awstraining2019.tk. Then just say create. So there we go. I have got my CNAME record where it actually is m. If someone is trying to put across m.awstraining2019.tk, it automatically redirects to the www.awstraining2019.tk. Let's check out. So there we go. Now my website also works with the m.awstraining2019.tk. But remember, if you're trying to go and use the CNAME records in the Route 53, it is going to charge you for them. Okay, so if you're going to use a CNAME for the naked domain, this is a naked domain. So if you're going to make use of CNAMEs in the naked domain, then you are going to be charged for that. So never use the naked domains as a CNAME records. It should be either alias or it can be hosted somewhere else. But if you are trying to use Route 53 to just make usage of CNAMEs to redirect the request, then you're going to be charged. So the naked domains are going to be always a part of alias and not the CNAME records. So this question does come up a lot in the AWS Solutions Arctic Associate as well as the SysOps exam, where they do ask about how is the naked domain mapped, or do we really consider creating the CNAME records for the naked domains? So answer is no. So we always opt for the alias records over the CNAME records so that we can save the cost. So if you're going to use the CNAME records for the naked domains, then you're going to be charged across. So that was about how do we host a domain, how do we map it, and how can we actually look for the original changes happening. Now we are able to actually configure everything with the user-friendly names. While we were trying to do the Route 53 lab, if you have checked it, we have got different routing policies here, which in terms of weighted, latency, failover, and the geolocation. So let's learn what are those different types of routing policies and what can we do with it. I didn't get a question, Rahul.
Hello,
Yeah, Rahul.
Pawan.
Yeah.
Yeah, in real time, end user we are getting we are receiving multiple requests like how please change the records from that from IP to name and name to IP, right, and PTR. So basically, I want to know means how many requests comes from the requester for the Route 53, like updating the records, set the alias. So in so what types of request comes from the requester?
Okay, so usually the kind of request that we get is in terms of first helping them to set up a domain completely, like we did just now. And apart from that, when he wants to have a secured connection like HTTPS, like done
Mm-hmm.
one with this HTTPS secure connection, at that time I have to create one more CNAME record, which is actually going to make all the transfer changes to the secured protocol. So until now, what we have seen, where I have been working in real-time environment, we have been making only changes with the alias records and the CNAME records and the MX to set up the mail records. So CNAME records specifically we are using where we are trying to help the request get traversed with the secure protocols with SSL layer.
Okay. Is there any backup tool for the Route 53? Because if any failure of the Route 53 server, so do we have any backup related tools or anything configuration related to Route 53?
No, we don't have anything called as backup such as for now, because what we have is different types of routing policies. In the routing policies, we do have one of them which is actually called as failover. So if
Okay.
one of them tries to fail over, I can actually create the complete setup in different region. So usually the Route 53 doesn't fail as far as the things are considered, that they are assuming that the North Virginia region could go down and my servers will not be available. So what they are saying is try to create a replica of your complete web server in different region. Let's say I'm going to use Mumbai as my secondary region, and for some reasons North Virginia is not working. So Route 53 is actually going to check out if there is any real-time failover on the North Virginia, and automatically, if it is so, it is going to redirect each and every user to the Mumbai region.
Okay. Thanks.
So discussing about the routing policies that we actually have in the Route 53, there are 5 different cases. That is simple, weighted, latency, failover, and the geolocation. So what we have first learned is all about the simple routing policy. So which is very simple. I do not have to build any intelligence behind it. It works very simple. So I have a user who is trying to access the domain from his laptop or computer, and he hits out a domain URL, and it hits a request to the Route 53, and the Route 53 is actually going to serve the request from the EC2 instance or a web server where we have actually hosted it. So in this example, the Route 53 is directly responding to the DNS query that the user has put across. So we have not set any rules to redirect it from here to there or something else, right? So it's plain simple one redirection. That is, user is hitting up the URL, it is going to Route 53. Route 53 has got a NS and the A records, and it directly hits across the place where I have hosted the web server in the US East 1. Now let's talk about the weighted routing policies. So what happens in the weighted routing policy? I can assign a weight and split my traffic based on the weights which I'm going to assign. So let's say I'm going to host my website in 2 different places. One is in US East 1 and the other is in US West 1. So one is in North Virginia and the second is in, let's say, California. So what I'm trying to do is, whenever my user is coming across and hitting the URL on his computer, we are hitting the request onto the Route 53. In Route 53, I'm going to place the weight. Specifically, I'll say 20% of the people should be sent to the US East 1 and the 80% of the people should be sent to the US West 1. Now, why would I like to do so? So whenever the websites are getting updated, let's say today I have got an old UI and I'm trying to prepare a new UI for my website, and I want a feedback from the users on how it actually looks. So what I will do, I will actually create a new set of website in the US East 1 and set it up across where 20% of weight will be assigned. So out of 100 users, every 20 users will be redirected to the new website which is in US East 1, and there I'm trying to collect their feedback on the look and feel of my new website. So if everything goes well, I'll go ahead and migrate the complete changes from US West 1 to as it is in US East 1, right? So later we can go ahead and migrate completely to one single set as we have in the simple routing. So initially, to just test out the changes and to find out whether things are working fine or not, to collect the user feedback, we may use this weighted routing based policy where certain set of users will be sent across to the other server and 80% of the users are being sent to the old website itself. So that is about weighted routing here. And then we have latency based routing. So what happens in the latency based routing? So the latency based routings specifically depend upon the location of a user. So if I am from India and if I'm trying to access some servers, let's talk about this example. I have a user from South Africa who is trying to access a website which is actually hosted in 2 different regions. One is in US East 1 and the second one is in EU West 1. So one is in North Virginia and the second is in Ireland. Now for South African user, of course, the Ireland is nearer because from the place where he is located, the nearest one will be Ireland. So whenever the request is being routed to the Route 53, so it is going to check out which is the nearest server for this user, and automatically it checks out the latency time, within how much time they will be able to reach the servers. So within 54 seconds, this South African user can actually reach down to the EU West 1 servers, while the same request, if it goes to US East 1, is going to take 300 milliseconds. So Route 53 has got this intelligence built behind it, where it has already got to know which is the nearest one and where it has to route it. So the South African user will be actually redirected to the servers which are in the EU West 1. So the latency based routing, so it is specifically sending me to the server which is going to help me deliver the request faster. And then we have failover routing policies. So in this failover routing policies, I am going to set up my domain in 2 different places. So one of them will be an active network, one of them will be a passive network. So this is how it is. So one will be active, second will be a passive. So whenever the users are actually trying to access my domain, they will always be sent to active network itself. Let's say something disaster happened on one of my active networks and it is completely inaccessible. But my website is something like which cannot have any downtime, like Amazon.in, which is an e-commerce website. We have never seen any downtime having on it. Flipkart.com, now any of the e-commerce website which are leading players, they will never have any of the downtime. That is because they have this active passive setup network. So even if the active goes down, there still people will be able to use the passive network which is available in some other region, and we will be able to access the website, place the orders, and do the things normally as we do, right? So the passive becomes the active in that case. So that is about failover latency, sorry, failover routing policy. And then finally we have geolocation based policy. So these are being in use, very much in use these days. So if you have seen, whenever you want to just click on Amazon in the Google search and find it out, it is going to redirect you to the nearest web servers. That is, you are in a part of India country, so it is going to specifically redirect you to Amazon.in. So if you want to go to google.com, it is actually going to redirect you to the google.co.in, which are specific to the India servers. So the geolocation policy actually routes the user to their nearest location based content. So if I have got, let's say, some websites are in Hindi, some websites are in English as well, right? So if you are in India, specifically, they are assuming that you would be more interested in the Hindi language to view that content. So if you are trying to access that website from India, then you will be actually redirected to the Hindi's, the servers where the content is loaded in Hindi. And if you are trying to put the same request across the web URL from outside India, then you will be redirected to the URL that is in English. So let's talk about this one example where I have got customers from the Europe and I have got the customers from the US as well. So the Europe customers are specifically looking for the content which is local to their language. So whenever the European customer is going to hit the URL in his browser, it sends a request to the Route 53 and the Route 53 is going to redirect the request to the EU West one, which is the nearest one as well, the place where I have put the content in their local language. Similarly, if the US customers are trying to access the same server, they will be redirected to the servers which are in the US East one, and it will be in the English language. So there are many examples, like if you take about the Amazon itself, the e-commerce website. So if I am in London, if I'm go ahead and open it, I'll be redirected to the amazon.co.uk, and all the prices will be basically displayed in the pounds. And if I try to open the same website in India, I'm going to see that the prices are going to be in Indian money, that is INR. And if I open the amazon.com, you will be able to see that the prices are going to be in terms of dollars, because it is the local currency of the country, and it is specifically good in one way to help the customers buy the products in their local currency. So that was all about the different types of routing policies. So overall, we have 5 different, that is simple, weighted, latency, failover, and the geolocation. So in the simple, we have no intelligence built behind it. In the weighted, I'm trying to set up weight across 2 different domains and then find out, in case of any new changes that I'm making to my website, I would like to collect the feedback from them. So I'll specifically go for weighted routing policy. And then we have latency based. So it is going to redirect you to the nearest web server. And then we have failover. So we have active and the passive network setup. So if the active goes down, I can still access my content from the passive. And then we have geolocation. So based upon your location, it is going to redirect you to the nearest, yeah, based upon your location, it is going to redirect you to the server which is according to your local language or the local currency or something else. So any questions here on the different types of routing policies? Yeah, we are going to be charged separately for each of them, because in weighted you are going to have the two different domains. So you are going to pay for the two EC2 instances, two load balancers as such. But the domain hosting on the Route 53 is going to remain the same. That is, one domain hosting is going to charge you $0.50 per month. And in terms of the latency based routing, let me explain you once again. So I have a user from, let's say, India, okay, and we are trying to access a server, one of them which is in Ireland, one of them which is in US. So which is nearest to us? So it does check across from the Route 53. So from India, if I hit a request now, I'll be able to reach the London servers much faster than the servers in the US, because it is going to depend upon the way the internet is set up across the world. So usually I'll be able to reach the London servers much faster than the servers in the US. So in latency based routing, it is going to basically check from where the user is coming and which server will be nearest to him, so that the page loads much faster. The South African user, whenever he hits a request, here he is being redirected to the Ireland. Similarly, if an India user is hitting the request, he will also be redirected to the Ireland or London servers which are nearest to him rather than the US. So if any user is already coming from the US, they will be redirected to the US servers, because that will be nearest for them. Latency is nothing but within how much time I'm getting a response back from the server in order to load it across. So if I go and hit on this Amazon and just refresh it, you see how fast the page is going to load, right? So it is going to check out the latency from the time the web URL has been hit from the user's machine to the time the server has been able to deliver the content. No, for now we are not doing any labs on this policy. Provided the time at last, we will do the routing policies lab. So any more questions or queries before we close for the day on the Route 53? Okay then, so we'll close the session here itself, and with this we end the Route 53 topic, and then next we are going to look at what is called as databases and how are we going to spin up a relational SQL that is relational database system and a NoSQL database. So we are going to learn about two different types, that is SQL and NoSQL databases, and how are we going to connect to that databases from our EC2 instances. So we are going to learn on the database section in the next part of our topics. Thanks all, have a great day, and we'll meet back again tomorrow at the same time. And most importantly, just clean up all the resources once you're done with the lab. And remember, any domain hosting on Route 53 is going to cost you $0.50 per month. So if I host a domain and take it off this end of the day, still you are going to be charged $0.50. Even if you're going to keep it for one single month, you're going to be charged $0.50. So if you want to practice the part of Route 53, you can host your domain and keep it for a 1 week or something, that should be fine.